For the boys after the break.
Good, really good. Really buoyed today by the fact that the 5 internationals are back. So we've had a really good week's training. We altered the days off to make sure everybody was back today. So there's a real buzz about the place because, as you know, when you come back for that international, cracks with the international team, Josh and Lyle with the 21s and soon away with Austria and Sammy with England. It's just great to get them all back, and we'll have a full complement up there training today. And there's a real buzz about it with the boys coming back in. And it's important as a club they get that recognition. But for me as manager, the important bit is they bring back that feel-good factor that they get from being involved at international level and bring it back to the group. And in my experience, that's what always happens, and I'm looking forward to that being the case today. And if you can hear the noise in the building, that's what it's all about now.
And the guys are back, no bumps and bruises?
No, we're fine. Everybody's fine. They've all relatively, everybody's different, but they've all had good experiences being away there. And we'll have a good training session today in preparation for a difficult match on Saturday. But just great to have a full complement of players up on the training pitch today.
And just generally in the team, use any fresh bumps and bruises?
No, good news on that. We've got Charlie and Clark who have been training with the squad this week. We expect a full return for them next week. This Saturday might be too early for them, but just great. Again, that feels like, as well as the 5 coming into the building from international. Here they come now, young Lyle. 5 coming in. We've got these 2 relatively long-term injuries. They were coming back, and it feels like 2 new signings. So, no, there's a real bounce, there's a real buzz about the place, and that's what it should be like after a little break we had with international there. It should be really, pedal to the metal and making sure we're ready to go now. And the first game that comes up is Ross County away, and we're very much looking forward to that.
Just in terms of the international guys, obviously you get the 5 guys away in international duty, but if we could just focus on John McCracken getting called into the senior squad, I mean, how much of a lift does that give everyone in the group? Because I guess it shows that, and prospective signings as well, because it shows that you can come to Dundee and achieve your ambitions of playing for the senior squad. I mean, and it shows that Steve Clark and his team are watching.
Yeah, it's great that as a club, and as manager of the club to get that recognition at full international level. I'm delighted for John, obviously, but you're right. I think then, it gives you that recognition. That there's young Josh and Lyle, for example, putting in fantastic performances for the Scotland under-21. So that's a motivator as well. That they're close to that themselves. And the other ones that represent their own countries. But I think you can see that. I think then we've enhanced the profile. The fact that we can sign players in permanent deals now. Billy Cometto from Liverpool and West Brom, we're signing Ethan there, and John McCracken, a permanent from Norwich. So it just shows how we've moved things on a bit, and that it's fantastic as a club to get that recognition when one of your players gets that full international call-up. But what it does is it acts as a huge motivational factor for the rest in the squad to say, look, I want to be there as well. And it's great that, they'll come to Dundee now, they'll look at that for prospective international players.
Just in terms of the block of fixtures that just passed, obviously we're away to start the new one. If I can just ask you about, I don't know if you saw Willie Collum, kind of summary of how he feels the officiating has been, whether it's been on field, VAR, whatever, and he seems relatively content with how things have been, highlighting a few issues. Just wondering, what's your view of it?
I said in the summer when Willie got appointed, I thought it was a brilliant appointment, and I really applaud him for the recent thing. I watched the whole programme that he did, and that's what I've always said about VAR. I've always been an advocate. Anything that's going to develop and enhance our game, I'm all for. And VAR will, but it just needs somebody to make sure it's going through the process the right way. And I think Willie's doing that. I think the programme, it's showed now, it's all about communication. There has to be better communication from last year. And I think Willie's taking that on board. There has to be more consistency as well. And if he sets out and continues to do what he's done there, then I agree and I applaud what he's doing. And I think it can only benefit the game.
Just on the game this weekend, is it simply about picking up after the break where you left off going into it?
Yeah, you'd like to think so. We know we've got a really tough opponent. They have a really, really strong performance against Aberdeen. Ross County, they lost a last-minute goal, but they missed a penalty themselves. So I know he'll be pleased, Don and his staff, his brother, they'll be pleased with the performance level that they got, and they're a good team at home, so we know it's a really tough opponent. But yeah, we're in good form, and as I say, the training I've seen of the players this week, and us being buoyed with the return of the international players, I feel as if there's a good bounce about us. So we'll be travelling up there in good spirits, confident, but there's a fine line between confidence and complacency, and we'll make sure that we've worked hard this week, we'll work hard over the next couple of days to put in a game plan and try and execute that game plan to do all we can to pick up maximum points.
I mean, looking at the league table, you're sixth in the league, you're undefeated all season. Do you feel, it's maybe strange asking this question given how well you've done this season, but do you feel you've got the points return that your performances have merited?
Possibly not. You know, when we sit and we analyse the games as we do every Monday after that performance, we're very honest about that. You know, over the season, listen, there's games you maybe don't deserve to win and you'll pick up something. But as long as there's a consistency of performance, that's what I'm looking for from the squad. And I think we had that last year, which culminated in our end position. So as long as we've got that consistency, I think you get rewarded with the points. So yeah, possibly we could have more points on the board than now, but I just want to make sure that the consistency of that performance is always there.
It's the final one for me. I asked you this, I think, in a pre-match interview ahead of the last game, but just on Simon Murray and the captain's role, you obviously feel he's the right man for the job. What kind of qualities does he bring to that?
Do you know what Simon brings? One of the best things he brings is real enthusiasm. He loves his job, he loves Dundee, and he brings that real enthusiasm. He's a leader. You know, he doesn't accept any, like all of my players, the senior ones that I bring in, they don't accept anybody slacking off in training. So there's a real responsibility that I think he likes having that responsibility, and I just think his general enthusiasm and, you know, love for the job and the relationship he has with the players, he's very highly respected from the players as well. So all of these factors, you know, and his relationship with the fans, you've seen that with the way he celebrated his goal against Hibs. All of that is a positive, you know, and you can only, as manager, you try and enhance everything that you can do or get from the squad. And Simon, for me, is, you know, he's the candidate to try and take things forward. But I feel as if I'm lucky in that situation. You know, Joe's my captain, Joe's the club captain. I've got Trevor Carson there, I've got Simon, I've got Curtis May, and I've got Jordan McGee. I've got really good experienced pros that help the younger players, you know, and I see them all as captains, but Simon at the moment is the one that's kind of picked up the baton.
Tony, we saw Lyle coming in the building there a few minutes ago. With Luke McCowan's departure, how big a chance is this for the likes of Lyle to really step up to plate and really shine?
I think Lyle's been doing that anyway. You know, I do. I think maybe others will give the opportunity to do that. There's others, you know, possibly couldn't get in the team because of the, you know, the level of performance I was talking about, the consistency of performance of Cameron and McCowan. But now, you know, there's opportunities there for players to step up. And I feel that, you know, and they will get that opportunity. It's now up to them. You know, there is now an opportunity to go and make sure that, you know, the levels, that we maintain the levels, and that whoever comes in, they make sure they take that opportunity and they show that they're the right one to do it.
You brought in a couple of exciting-looking attackers in the transfer window, Adewumi and Vetro. You're kind of spoiled for choice in the forward areas now. It must be a great thing to have, and it really keeps everybody on their toes, doesn't it?
It does, and I've always said that. You know, I always want to make sure. I think you get the best out of players when there's healthy competition, and it is. You can see that with the squad. You know, there is real healthy competition for places, and that results in how you train during the day and how you prepare for matches as well. And when you get into matches, me as manager having those options, particularly in the forward areas, as you say, is a good thing. You know, and I think healthy competition is good. And these ones that I've brought in, you know, they bring real pace to the front line. They bring real quality. So, you know, alongside the real quality I've got already in, you know, the forward areas in Seb, Simon, Curtis and Tiff, it's exciting. It's an exciting time, and you know that you've got the tools, whether they start the game or... I always say that to players, sometimes it's not the starting team, it can be the finishing team that wins the game. So just make sure you're part of a winning team, whether you start or whether you finish.
Team's obviously in a very good place. You're refreshed, raring to go again after the international break. There's a terrific looking run of games coming up. You must be desperate just to get back at it.
Yeah, and there is that feeling now. I mean, I'm desperate to get on the training field this morning, you know, because as I say, we're buoyed with the 5 international players coming back, with the already ones that have been here. So, yeah, no, it's exciting, but it's important that we keep a real focus on what our job is, what we need to do, and to win games of football, you need to make sure you train properly during the week. You do all the right things getting into that game, and then when the game comes along, you need to try and execute a game plan and be as professional as you can be. But I've got a group of players, I always say it in that dressing room there, that they're so professional, they work so hard every day, and hopefully we can see that, you know, by their performances on the pitch.
And just speaking about internationals, great to see young Josh now has the most Scotland under-21 caps of any
Brilliant.
Dundee player. I mean, you must be so delighted for the progress he's making.
Absolutely, and I think there's a real pride in the dressing room about that. I know they rib each other, they kid each other on all the time, but there is that pride. There's a real strong feeling towards Cracks getting his international call up, and that stat you just said about Josh and Lyle performance so well for the 21s, and Josh, everybody's talking about Josh's assist, for Spain where he did really well, and obviously his goal as well. So there is a real pride. They're a tight knit group, and I think as well as. They give each other a hard time, but they recognise and they're all right behind one another. And I see that there's a real strength within the group. I said that in the last game. And they're all happy for one another and they all want each other to progress, but they're competitive, and they realise they need to compete with each other to progress. And that's something, as manager, that I can only use and try and get that to encourage better levels of performance.
Great, thanks. Just on that stat that Dave just mentioned there, I mean, how big of a jump do you think it is to go from what seems like a veteran at the 21 level to knocking on the door for the senior national squad?
I think, it's important that the players realise, there's John McCracken as an example, conversations took place with John McCracken, before, and it's good that the club are now at a stage where we can sign in permanence, John McCracken from Norwich, Billy Cometto from Liverpool, West Brom, we've got Ethan Ingram, but the conversation I had with John in the summer was all about, if he shows that consistency of performance with his club, then he could get that international recognition. And it's come along at a good time, quite early. Same applies with Josh. Josh and Lyle, they're doing really, really well, respectively with the under-21s, but it's their club performances that will get them into that international scene. And they have to see it now that, as I said earlier on, that there is a motivational factor when they see their teammates getting recognised with good performances in the Scottish Premier League, a brilliant league with brilliant teams. Then Steve Clarke is looking, and it's great for me as manager, when Steve phoned, I thought it was brilliant, that one of my players was getting recognised, and I just hope that they can see that and they can put in these level of performances, be it in the Premier League, be it under 21s, and get that recognition.
So it's something you definitely feel they can achieve at Dundee as well?
I think so, yeah. I think there's John done it. I think previously, there was a strong case for Luke when he was here for getting into that Scotland squad as well. So I think if they're performing, if we're at the right end of the table and they're performing consistently on a weekly basis, then there could be that recognition. And I've got to say, I thought the Scotland performance was excellent against Portugal, and there's a real feel-good factor again after that national factor because of the performance, and that just gives everybody a lift in the game.
You touched on Luke there. With his big move to Celtic, does the dressing room dynamics change at all? I mean, is there...
I think if anything, it motivates people, it motivates players. As I said, we're now at a stage where we're, in terms of recruitment, we're bringing in permanent deals, permanent players from Liverpool, Norwich, West Brom. Our loan signings we've brought in from Leicester, from Queen's Park Rangers, Bristol City. So the profile is enhanced that we can bring in this level of player. The other side of that is, you're developing the players that are in the building, and that's what we're all about here as a staff, to improve and develop. And the downside, if you like, of that is that it's going to attract suitors. But for players, that's a huge motivator. They've got to see that there is, as well as the international recognition, there's a recognition from other clubs that you're doing well. And that's what I want to do every day in training. I want to, make sure that that's the case. Everybody's training as hard as they can to perform as well as they can to get that recognition, because that's what we're all in it for. We're all in it for improvement and development.
Final question from myself. I also saw Joe Shaughnessy coming through this morning. How's his rehabilitation going? Brilliant.
He's doing really well. He's up. Another real kind of positive is when the boys seen him on the pitch the other day. They're doing a pitch session of grass. Joe's inspirational. Joe's a brilliant captain. He does so much even when he's not playing. So yeah, to see him on the training ground the other day gave everybody a lift, and he's doing so well. He's ahead of schedule. I don't want to put dates on it because I don't want to put him under pressure, but Joe doesn't have a day off. Joe works as hard, and that's why I made him captain. He's a brilliant example to the young players here and everything that he does. And he's still very involved with the team just now, although he's not training with them on the training pitch. But to see him on the training pitch the other day was hugely inspirational for not just me, but the whole squad.
In that session, was he kicking a ball or was he just running?
No, he's just running, but it's just his presence. It's just the players seeing him running around the pitch they're training on. It gives us all a lift.
Was that just earlier this week?
Yeah. Tuesday he was back, just on the grass, just running. So great, but I can't speak highly enough of Joe. He's my captain. First signing that I made, and he's still the role that he plays, even as a non-playing captain, is the players will tell you in there is very inspirational.
And is there potentially any timeline for when he might start?
I don't want to do that to him. because I feel that sometimes that puts players under pressure. I just want to recognise how hard he's working. As I say, he doesn't have a day off, and he's doing his utmost to make sure he's back, and he's a playing captain rather than a non-playing captain.
Scott, how's everyone feeling after the international break?
Yeah, I think, like, as a squad, I feel like we're in a good place at the minute. We're obviously still waiting on the international boys coming back, so once they come back, we'll have a full squad and we'll be ready to go for Saturday.
It's something about picking up after the break where you left off before it, isn't it?
Yeah, look, we're undefeated so far, and I feel like our performances in each game have been really good, and it's just looking to build on that now.
Is the best yet to come, would you say?
I would say so, yeah, because we're quite a fresh squad at the minute. We're still all getting to know each other, and I think once the next few weeks come, I think you'll see that.
Just wondering, obviously John McCracken got the call into the senior Scotland squad. Obviously I know that there's under-21s that have been performing for the national level and below at the club, but I'm just wondering, does that give everyone a lift? Seeing one of your teammates get called into the senior Scotland squad, it just shows everyone else, like yourself or whoever, that, you know, the national team is watching, and if you perform well for Dundee, there's no reason why you can't get into that senior Scotland squad.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think everybody at the club was buzzing when they found out Cracks got called up into the Scotland squad, so I think as a group of players we'll look up to that.
And it doesn't give you almost maybe added incentives is the wrong word, but it shows that if you are performing, that you could maybe get yourself in.
I think that shows to MD. I think as long as if you're performing week in, week out, then you never know what can happen.
Just in terms of your own form, how happy have you been with the start? You've maybe scored 3 goals in the last 4 games.
Yeah, look, I feel like at the minute I'm in a great place, and I just want to build on that and keep it going forward.
I mean, I think that people at the end of last season, which was a terrific season for the club, might have been asking the question, great season, but can Dundee build on it and kick on? And the early evidence of this season would suggest that you can.
Well, that was the message the manager put to us in each... so the manager put that message to us, and we just want to go out and show them that we can do it again.
Quick word about Ross County. What kind of challenge are you expecting from them? They've not had the start to the season perhaps that they would have wanted.
No matter what team we play against, week in, week out, we always want to go on and win the game, so that's about it.
I guess the fact, Scott, that, you know, Ross County, before the international break, they took Aberdeen right down to the wire, a very good Aberdeen team. That tells you how good they can be and how hard it's going to be for you guys. Yeah,
look, every game in this league's difficult. We know that going into it, but we know what we can do in the day, so hopefully that's good enough.
Such feel-good factor, such momentum, such excitement built up before the international break. You guys must be desperate to get back at it.
Yeah, look, as I said earlier, we're in a great place at the minute, and as everybody knows, momentum's massive in football, so we can't wait for the weekend.
And there's some brilliant-looking games coming up, one at a time, obviously, but some brilliant-looking games coming up. There must be a huge excitement in the group.
Yeah, look, there's always excitement in this group, but the manager's message to us is just take one game at a time, and that's what we're doing at the minute.
Thanks.
Scott, just a couple of questions for myself. Before the international break, it was obviously the end of the transfer window. There was a lot of chat about Dundee, about Luke McCowan. He obviously got his big move to Celtic. Has the dressing room felt any different without Luke?
Obviously, it was a big part of the dressing room, and what was it you asked again?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you've got a player of Luke's calibre, of his importance to the team, he was the captain. Does it feel any different when that figure's not there?
No, not really, to be honest. Luke was a big character in our dressing room, but we've got plenty of them in there, so we just all need to step up now and hopefully replace them.
And is that something that you take on your shoulders as one of the players who maybe can step up?
Yeah, I think everybody needs to take it on their shoulders. Luke was a great player for us last season and into this season, and now it's time for somebody else to step up and take his place.
Just another one from me, sorry, about the attacking options the manager has at his disposal. Obviously he brought in Adewumi and Vetro in the transfer window. He's really kind of spoilt for choice now. how exciting a challenge is that for you guys as a group to get into the team? Because, you know, the competition for attacking places has never been stronger.
No, I know, but that's a good thing. Like, the managers put the message on is that we need to perform week in, week out to keep the place in the team, and I think that's shown in our performances on a Saturday.